The sky above the colony was red with fire and smoke. Explosions rocked the ground as alien raiders attacked without warning. Buildings crumbled and alarms blared through the streets. The residents ran in panic, trying to escape the falling debris and fire. Children screamed and adults shouted instructions, but chaos ruled the scene. Dust and ash filled the air, making it hard to see, and the ground shook beneath the feet of everyone in the colony. Leora ran through the chaos, her heart pounding, her breaths quick and shallow. She dodged falling beams and sparks from broken power lines. Her uniform was scorched in places, and her boots left black marks in the dusty streets. Despite the fear and destruction around her, she did not stop. She had a mission, a purpose. She would not leave anyone behind. From somewhere deep within the colony, faint cries reached her ears. Leora's heart skipped a beat. She recognized the sound immediately: infants. Small, helpless lives at risk. She turned toward the sound, weaving through wrecked vehicles and broken walls, pushing past humans who tried to drag her to safety. "I can't leave them," she muttered to herself, her voice lost in the roar of explosions. She arrived at a nursery building, one corner of it already collapsed. The walls were cracked, smoke rising through the shattered roof. Inside she saw the tiny alien babies huddled together, frightened and alone. Their scales glimmered faintly under the smoke, and their eyes were wide with fear. Some had tiny injuries from falling debris, small cuts and bruises that needed attention. The alien parents were nowhere in sight, probably trapped elsewhere or trying to fight off the attackers. Without hesitation, Leora stepped inside the nursery. Dust choked her lungs and sparks rained from broken lights above. She moved quickly, carefully avoiding loose beams and falling rubble. She bent down, reaching for the babies, lifting them gently one by one. Each tiny life she held made her heart ache with both fear and determination. She murmured softly to calm them. "It's okay. I've got you. Nothing will hurt you now." As she gathered the last of the infants, a large beam shifted above her, threatening to fall. Leora's arms tightened around the babies, her legs braced against the floor. With a sudden push and a quick leap to the side, she avoided the beam just as it crashed down where she had been standing moments before. The smoke and dust made it difficult to see, but the infants chirped softly, startled but unharmed. She smiled faintly, relief rushing through her. Outside the nursery, the alien parents arrived, their eyes wide with terror. They had been bracing for the worst, expecting to find their babies lost or dead. When they saw Leora, a human, holding their infants carefully, they froze in disbelief. Their instincts screamed to attack, to grab their babies by force, but their fear and confusion held them back. The humans around the square could see the hesitation, the silent standoff between species, and they held their breaths, unsure of what would happen next. Leora did not flinch or hesitate. She held the babies up, showing them clearly to the alien parents. Her voice was calm, gentle, and steady. "I'm only trying to help," she said softly. "They're safe. I won't hurt them." The aliens blinked, still wary, still bracing for danger, but they could not deny the care in her tone or the careful way she held their children. The raiders were still attacking, their weapons firing through the streets, forcing everyone to move. Leora turned her head, scanning for a safe exit. Her eyes found a small alley partially shielded by debris. It was risky, but it was their best chance. She moved carefully, holding the babies close to her chest, keeping them safe from falling sparks and flying rubble. Each step was deliberate, avoiding loose stones and broken glass. The alien parents followed cautiously behind, still unsure if they could trust a human. Their eyes never left Leora or their babies. She moved with purpose, her calmness in the chaos demonstrating a courage they had never expected. She had no weapons, no armor capable of stopping the raiders' firepower. Her strength lay in her determination, her intelligence, and her care for the infants she held. Explosions echoed through the streets, and a nearby building collapsed, sending a cloud of dust and ash into the alley. Leora crouched, shielding the babies with her arms as debris rained around them. The alien parents reached her side, still tense but starting to relax slightly, realizing that the humans' actions were protecting their children rather than threatening them. Finally, they emerged from the alley into a slightly safer area. The roar of the attackers faded slightly in the distance, though the danger was far from over. Leora set the babies down gently, letting the alien parents scoop them into their arms. Their eyes met hers, filled with shock, gratitude, and a dawning understanding. A human, one human, had risked everything to save lives that were not her own. The colony was in ruins, the sky still streaked with fire and smoke, but a small miracle had occurred. The babies were safe. The alien parents, still trembling, could not fully comprehend what had happened, but one thing was clear: the courage and care of a single human had made the difference between life and death. Leora stepped back, her hands dusty and scraped, her heart still racing. Around her, humans and aliens alike watched in silence. The attack had not ended, but hope had been born. The infants were alive, their parents were present, and the impossible had happened. A human had held what everyone thought was already lost. And in that moment, a lesson began to form in the minds of all who witnessed it. Sometimes courage, compassion, and quick thinking mattered more than weapons or strength. The human had acted when no one else could, and for the first time that day the colony could see that survival and even hope might still be possible. The dust and smoke hung thick in the air, making it hard to see more than a few feet ahead. The attack on the colony had left buildings shattered, streets broken, and the cries of the wounded echoing through the ruins. Leora stood in the center of the destruction, holding the tiny alien hatchlings tightly in her arms. Each one was fragile, trembling and whimpering softly, yet somehow safe in her careful hands. Her chest heaved as she tried to keep her breathing steady, but she could not stop moving. Time was critical. Every second of hesitation could cost a life. Suddenly movement caught her eye. From the wreckage of a partially collapsed building, the alien parents emerged. Their eyes widened in terror and disbelief. They had been bracing for loss, certain their babies were gone. Flames reflected off their scales, highlighting their panic as they rushed toward the center of the square. The humans around the scene froze, some hiding behind debris, others staring with wide eyes. The sight was surreal. Alien parents, enormous and powerful, running straight toward a human, and a human holding their most precious lives. Leora's heart skipped a beat as she saw them. She did not move backward. Instead, she held the hatchlings higher, showing clearly that each one was unharmed. She murmured softly to them, "I've got you. You're safe now. Nothing will hurt you." Her voice was calm but firm, carrying a weight of care that seemed to cut through the chaos. The infants chirped, tiny sounds that echoed faintly in the smoky air. Their cries were no longer frantic, they sensed safety. The alien parents froze. Their instincts screamed to attack, to retrieve their children immediately, to ensure no harm came to them. Yet something about the humans' calmness and careful movements confused them. They had expected fear, aggression, or selfishness. They had expected survival instincts from a creature so different. Instead they saw gentle care, courage, and patience. They could not move, caught between instinct and the disbelief that a human could be trusted. Leora took a cautious step forward, still keeping the babies in plain view. "I am only helping," she said softly. "I won't harm them. I won't harm you. I just want to keep them safe." Her words were simple, but they carried sincerity. One of the alien parents tilted its head slightly, nostrils flaring, scanning her carefully. Its glowing eyes flickered between fear and curiosity. The humans watching could hardly believe the scene. A human and aliens, facing each other amid destruction, had paused the instinct to attack simply because of trust being shown in the smallest of gestures. The alien parents approached more cautiously, moving slowly so as not to startle the hatchlings. Leora remained still, her movements deliberate and gentle. She adjusted the infants slightly in her arms, protecting their heads and wings from dust and falling debris. The aliens stopped a few steps away, their massive forms tense, yet the initial shock of seeing a human holding their babies without harm softened into cautious relief. One of the alien parents reached a clawed hand toward the hatchlings, but Leora did not flinch. Instead, she held them higher, giving clear space and showing that she meant no harm. The alien hesitated, sniffing the air, and finally, very carefully, reached out to touch one of the babies gently. Its massive hand trembled slightly. The infant chirped softly, leaning into the touch, and the parent blinked in astonishment. The other alien parent stepped closer, eyes wide with disbelief. Their breathing was rapid, yet they did not lash out. They had seen humans act selfishly, violently, or out of fear before, but this one human had acted differently. She had chosen care over panic, action over hesitation, and love over fear. Their instincts to assume the worst were challenged, and slowly the first sparks of trust began to form. The humans hiding in the rubble whispered among themselves, their fear mixing with awe. Some could not believe what they were seeing. Others shook their heads, murmuring, She's holding their babies, and they're not attacking her." The colony, battered and terrified moments before, seemed to hold its breath as the impossible unfolded. A human had not only survived amid destruction but had become the protector of the alien infants, the very lives everyone thought were doomed. Leora adjusted her hold on the hatchlings, murmuring to them softly, keeping them calm as she watched the alien parents carefully observe her. Their eyes softened slightly, though caution remained. For the first time that day, they realized that humans were not all fragile, selfish, or reckless. Some could act with courage, intelligence, and empathy that transcended species, even in the midst of chaos. Minutes passed as the dust settled slightly around them. The alien parents kept their distance but did not retreat. They watched, cautious but silent, as Leora continued to speak to the babies softly, rocking them gently and checking their tiny injuries. The hatchlings chirped in response, tiny sounds of comfort that reached the hearts of both their parents and the human protecting them. The shock of the moment hung in the air. The alien parents could not fully comprehend how a human, so physically small, so different, could show such bravery and care. But they could see it. They could feel it. And slowly hesitation began to turn into gratitude and fear into trust. Leora lowered herself slightly, letting the alien parents see that the hatchlings were unharmed and safe. "They are okay," she said softly. "You don't have to worry. I will not let anything happen to them." The words were simple, yet they carried truth and courage. Slowly the alien parents stepped forward, their massive forms bending slightly to reclaim their babies, but still pausing to acknowledge the human who had saved them. In that instant, amid the ruins and chaos, a bond began to form. Not just between human and alien but between courage and trust, fear and understanding. The moment of shock had passed, replaced by a quiet realization. Sometimes the smallest act of care could bridge the widest divide, even in the most desperate of circumstances. Leora remained kneeling, holding her hands open, still supporting the hatchlings gently. The alien parents now observed her not as a threat, but as an ally. And in that moment the impossible became clear. The human had not just saved the babies, she had earned the trust of those who had braced for loss. The streets of the colony were a war zone. Smoke curled into the sky, debris littered the ground, and the sounds of explosions and alien fire echoed from every direction. Leora tightened her hold on the alien hatchlings, keeping them close to her chest as she ran. Each step was careful but quick, dodging falling beams, sparks and shattered glass. The aliens' parents followed cautiously, their massive forms weaving around obstacles, still wary of trusting a human, yet unwilling to abandon their babies. Leora glanced over her shoulder. Smoke and fire had filled the alleyways behind them, and she could hear the approaching raiders, their weapons sending shards of metal and fire in every direction. She kept her eyes forward, scanning for a safe path. Among the wreckage she spotted a narrow street partially shielded by collapsed walls. It was risky, but it offered a chance to move the infants out of immediate danger. She took a deep breath and moved toward it, her steps steady despite the chaos. "Stay close," she murmured to the alien parents, who nodded, though their eyes remained tense. They had been bracing for the worst, but now, following the human, they saw a possibility, a path to safety. Leora's calmness gave them courage, even in the face of destruction. A sudden explosion shook the ground nearby, sending a cloud of dust into the air. Leora ducked instinctively, keeping the hatchlings protected in her arms. Sparks rained down around her, but she did not hesitate. Each infant made small noises, startled but unharmed, and she murmured soothing words. "It's okay. We'll be safe soon." Her voice carried authority and care, even as the world around her crumbled. The alien parents followed carefully, keeping the babies in sight while also guarding the human who carried them. The smaller one lowered a claw to nudge Leora gently, signaling awareness and gratitude. It was an unspoken acknowledgement. The human's courage was giving them a chance they had not believed possible. As they moved through the narrow street, Leora spotted a fallen power conduit sparking across the path. Without stopping, she lifted the hatchlings higher, ducking under the arc of electricity, and adjusted her steps to avoid the debris. A shower of sparks illuminated her face, and for a moment the alien parents froze, fearful she might be harmed. But Leora's calm determination shone through, and they moved with her, trusting her instinct and judgment. A group of raiders appeared at the end of the street, weapons aimed directly at them. Leora did not panic. She stopped for just a moment, calculating the timing. She saw a small gap between two abandoned buildings, just wide enough to slip through with the babies. With a quick glance at the alien parents, she nodded, signaling them to follow closely. The lead raider fired, and a blast hit the wall beside her, sending dust and small debris into the air. Leora ducked and ran, holding the hatchlings tightly against her chest. The alien parents flanked her, moving with surprising agility for their size, protecting the human and the infants alike. Together, they navigated the ruined streets, each step a careful balance between speed and caution. The humans hiding behind rubble watched in awe, realizing that this small group, led by a single human, was moving with skill, courage and determination unmatched even by the colony's trained defenders. A falling beam blocked their next path and Leora acted quickly. She lifted one infant above her head, then the others, holding them high as she pushed under the beam. The alien parents followed, lowering their massive heads but keeping the babies within sight. Sparks flew around them but none of the infants were touched. Leora's steady hands and clear focus kept them safe, and for the first time the alien parents' fear began to soften into trust. They reached a partially intact building that could serve as temporary shelter. Leora set the hatchlings down gently, letting the alien parents take them into their arms. Relief and disbelief showed on the aliens' faces. They had braced for loss, yet here were their children, alive and unharmed, thanks to the courage of a human. The humans' calmness, patience and careful actions had defied their expectations and saved lives in the midst of chaos. But the danger was not over. The raiders continued their assault, and the streets outside were still filled with explosions and fire. Leora looked around, assessing their next move. The aliens, now seeing her not as a threat but as a protector, stayed close. Together, they coordinated silently, following her lead as she planned the safest route out of the colony. Step by step, they moved, carefully navigating through the ruins. Leora kept the hatchlings protected at every moment, adjusting their positions to shield them from sparks, debris, and smoke. The alien parents moved around her, forming a living barrier, their massive bodies intimidating even the raiders at a distance. It was an unusual scene, humans and aliens moving as one, guided by courage, care, and trust. Finally, they reached a larger open area where the raiders had not yet entered. Leora paused, catching her breath, and looked at the alien parents. Their eyes met hers, a mixture of shock, gratitude, and growing respect. The infants were safe, alive, and calm, a testament to the human who had risked everything for them. Around them, the colony was in ruins, smoke still rising, debris scattered, and danger everywhere. Yet in that small moment, a path forward had been carved through courage and care. Leora had led them through the chaos, showing that even in the face of destruction, quick thinking, bravery, and empathy could save lives. The alien parents carefully gathered their hatchlings, keeping them close, while Leora remained vigilant, watching the streets ahead. The raiders were still out there but the small group had made it through the worst. The infants had survived and a bond had formed, a bond of trust, respect, and understanding between human and alien. For the first time that day, hope flickered in the colony. A human had acted decisively, fearlessly, and with care, proving that survival was not only about strength or firepower, but about courage, intelligence, and protecting life when it mattered most. The safe area was small and temporary, a narrow courtyard surrounded by broken walls and scorched buildings. Leora stood in the center, still holding the alien hatchlings gently in her arms. The alien parents flanked her, their massive forms tense and alert. Their eyes flicked toward every shadow, every movement, still wary from the attack but also grateful that their infants were alive. The humans who had survived the attack watched quietly from behind debris, too stunned to move. Suddenly, the sound of raiders' engines echoed through the streets. A group of raiders appeared at the far edge of the courtyard, weapons raised, ready to strike. Leora's heart pounded, but she did not hesitate. She held the hatchlings close, her arms steady, her eyes scanning the attackers. She had no heavy weapons, no shield strong enough to stop the raiders' firepower, but she had something far more important: courage and the determination to protect life. The lead alien parent stepped forward, massive wings extending slightly, ready to block any attack. Its eyes met Leora's, seeking a signal of intent. Leora nodded slightly, holding the hatchlings higher, showing clearly that she meant no harm. "I will not let them hurt the babies," she said softly, her voice calm but firm. "You can trust me." The alien parent's nostrils flared, smoke curling into the air, but it remained in place, waiting to see what she would do next. The raiders fired, sending sparks and debris flying across the courtyard. Leora ducked slightly, keeping the hatchlings protected, and moved deliberately between the shadows of broken walls to avoid the fire. The alien parents mirrored her movements, shielding her and the infants with their massive bodies. For a moment, it seemed impossible that they could survive such an attack, yet Leora's calm courage created a strange stillness, even amid chaos. One of the smaller raiders advanced quickly, aiming a weapon directly at the group. Leora did not panic. She took a careful step forward, keeping the hatchlings high, and held her hands visible, showing no threat. The raider hesitated, confused by the human's calm and deliberate actions. Leora's voice carried over the sound of gunfire. "I'm only protecting the babies. I will not harm you, but I will not let them be hurt." The words, soft but confident, seemed to freeze the raider for a moment. The alien parents shifted slightly, their massive forms moving to block any possible path of attack. Their wings brushed the ground, sending dust and small debris into the air. Their eyes never left Leora, studying her carefully. They had followed her this far, risking everything, but now they needed to know whether the humans' intentions were true. This was the test of trust. Could a human really be counted on to protect what mattered most, even under fire? Leora adjusted the hatchlings gently, keeping them calm. One of the infants whimpered softly and she murmured, "It's okay. I've got you. Nothing will hurt you." The alien parents watched closely, their glowing eyes flickering between doubt and a growing sense of relief. The human's actions spoke louder than words. Each careful step, each protective gesture, each moment of calm in the middle of danger showed that her courage was real. The raiders fired again, a blast striking a nearby wall. Dust and smoke filled the courtyard, and the humans hiding behind rubble froze in fear. But Leora remained steady. She moved slowly, deliberately, guiding the aliens and their hatchlings toward a slightly safer corner of the courtyard. Every movement was precise, protecting the infants while keeping the aliens aware that she would not falter. One of the alien parents reached a clawed hand toward Leora's shoulder, not in aggression, but as a silent signal of trust. Leora glanced at the gesture, understanding immediately. She slowed her movements slightly, giving the parent confidence. "We're almost safe," she said softly, glancing at the hatchlings to reassure them. The infants chirped quietly, sensing that danger was being kept at bay. The raiders hesitated, uncertain how to proceed. Leora's calm bravery, combined with the alien parents' presence, made it clear that attacking directly would be difficult and risky. The humans in hiding whispered among themselves, amazed at the scene. A small human guiding massive alien creatures, protecting their young and standing unshaken in the face of overwhelming danger. Step by step, Leora led the group, keeping the hatchlings protected and showing the aliens that her intentions were true. The parents gradually relaxed their stance, wings lowering slightly, breathing evening out. They followed her lead, moving as one with her, their trust growing with every careful action she took. The raiders, sensing the growing unity, began to retreat slightly, unsure how to break the calm control the human had established. Finally, they reached a corner of the courtyard with a partially intact wall providing cover. Leora crouched, keeping the hatchlings safe in her arms, and looked up at the alien parents. Their eyes met hers, filled with recognition, understanding, and a hesitant gratitude. They had tested her courage and care, and she had passed. The trust was no longer tentative, it was earned. The infants chirped softly, nestled against Leora and their parents. The moment of danger had passed, and the humans' bravery had proven more powerful than the weapons of the attackers. The alien parents gently gathered their babies, keeping them close, while Leora remained watchful, ensuring that they were safe from any lingering threat. Around them, the colony remained in ruins, smoke rising from broken buildings, but hope had returned. The test of trust had succeeded. One human, through courage, calmness, and care, had shown that she could be counted on to protect life even in the most dangerous circumstances. The alien parents' eyes held something new: respect, gratitude, and the beginning of a bond that could not be broken easily. Leora stood slowly, keeping the hatchlings safe, as the alien parents positioned themselves around her, forming a protective circle. The raiders had retreated for now, but the lesson was clear. Courage, patience, and care were more powerful than fear or fire. The human had proven that trust could be earned in the unlikeliest of ways, and that understanding could emerge even in the midst of chaos. For the first time that day, the colony felt a small spark of safety. The infants were unharmed, the alien parents were beginning to trust, and the human who had risked everything had shown that true bravery meant more than fighting. It meant protecting those who could not protect themselves. The colony was quiet now, though the air still smelled of smoke and dust. The last of the raiders had retreated, leaving behind shattered streets, broken walls, and the scattered remnants of what had once been a thriving settlement. Leora stood in the center of a small courtyard, the alien hatchlings cradled safely in her arms. Their parents hovered close, massive forms relaxed but alert, watching every movement carefully. The humans who had survived the attack began to emerge from hiding, their eyes wide with awe and disbelief. The alien parents finally stepped forward fully, gathering their hatchlings in their arms. They moved slowly at first, still cautious, but their gaze softened as they looked at Leora. It was clear that they had expected the worst, that their babies would be lost forever, but here they were, alive and unharmed. Leora smiled faintly, keeping her hands open to show that she meant no harm. "They are safe," she whispered. "Nothing happened to them." One of the alien parents leaned closer, lowering its massive head to inspect the infants. Leora adjusted her hold slightly, letting the parent see that each baby was unharmed. The parent exhaled slowly, smoke curling gently from its nostrils, and for the first time, its eyes showed relief. Its mate followed suit, moving closer and cautiously touching the hatchlings' tiny heads with a gentle claw. The babies chirped softly, leaning into their parents' touch, and the alien couple's tension melted further. The humans in the courtyard whispered among themselves, amazed at what they were witnessing. A single human had saved lives that seemed impossible to protect. She had not used weapons, she had not issued commands, and yet she had acted with courage, intelligence, and care. Her actions had bridged the divide between species in a way that no one had expected. The red glow of fires and the haze of smoke could not diminish the quiet triumph that had taken place in the center of the ruins. Leora knelt slightly, letting the alien parents hold the hatchlings close, while she spoke softly. "I only wanted to make sure they were safe," she said. "That's all. I didn't want anything bad to happen to them." Her words were simple, but they carried sincerity, and the aliens seemed to understand. They studied her closely, their massive eyes glowing softly, and slowly a sense of trust settled over them. The alien parents moved around her in a circle, keeping their hatchlings close but observing Leora. Their wings brushed the ground, and their massive tails shifted slightly, a sign of cautious respect. The humans' calmness and protective actions had proven something extraordinary, that courage was not measured by size or strength, but by the willingness to risk everything for others. Leora's bravery had earned their trust, and the aliens recognized it fully. One of the parents extended a claw toward Leora, but not in threat. It was a careful, deliberate gesture, signaling acknowledgement and gratitude. Leora reached out slowly, letting her hand touch the alien's scaled arm gently. The alien flinched at first, then relaxed, the tension in its massive body easing. The gesture was small, but it symbolized the bond that had formed in the midst of chaos: mutual respect, understanding, and care. The hatchlings chirped again, tiny voices that filled the quiet courtyard. The alien parents held them protectively, yet their eyes remained on Leora. The human had risked her life for theirs, and the lesson was clear: humans could act with compassion and courage even when surrounded by danger. The aliens began to see her not as a fragile creature, but as a protector, a being capable of bravery and intelligence far beyond what they had imagined. Around them, the humans began to step forward slowly. They approached with caution, still aware of the aliens' presence, but their fear was replaced with admiration. They had witnessed a miracle in the midst of destruction. A human had bridged a gap that no one thought possible, earning trust and forming a bond that could endure. The colony had been battered, yet hope had returned, and it was stronger than ever. Leora stood, keeping the hatchlings safely cradled. The alien parents positioned themselves around her, forming a protective circle. Their eyes met hers, and for a long moment, no words were spoken. The trust that had been built during the chaos remained unbroken, forming a quiet understanding that transcended language and species. Together they had survived, together they had protected life, and together they had proven that courage and care could unite even the most unlikely allies. Finally, the lead alien parent lowered its massive head, bringing its eyes level with Leora's. Smoke curled slowly from its nostrils, but its posture was relaxed, its gaze calm. It exhaled softly, a rumbling sound that seemed almost like a sigh of relief. Leora smiled faintly, understanding the gesture. The test was over. Trust had been earned. A new bond had been formed. The other alien parent mirrored the action, lowering its head toward Leora. The hatchlings chirped happily, sensing the peace in the moment. Around them, the humans began to move freely again, their fear and panic replaced by awe. The colony was still in ruins, but life had been saved, and the impossible had been accomplished. A single human had shown that courage, empathy, and intelligence could overcome fear and forge alliances even in the most desperate circumstances. Leora gently set the hatchlings down on a soft piece of debris, letting the alien parents scoop them into their arms. She watched as they adjusted their hold, careful but protective, their massive bodies shielding the babies completely. A quiet smile crossed her face. The bond was no longer tentative, it was real. The humans, the aliens, and the hatchlings were connected now by a shared understanding of courage and care. The fires burned in the distance, smoke drifting across the courtyard, but the chaos had faded. For the first time that day, the survivors felt a quiet peace. Leora had proven that humans were not weak or helpless. Even amidst destruction, a human could act decisively with bravery and compassion, changing the course of events and forming trust where none had existed before. The alien parents finally lifted their wings slightly, signaling that the immediate danger had passed. Their eyes remained on Leora, but there was no tension, only recognition and respect. The hatchlings chirped, safe and calm in their parents' arms. The humans in the courtyard whispered in admiration, realizing that what had just occurred would be remembered for a long time. In that ruined colony, amid smoke and fire, a human had held the babies that everyone thought were lost. And in doing so, she had created a new bond, a bond of trust, respect, and understanding between species. It was a small spark of hope, a reminder that courage and compassion could bridge even the widest divides. Leora stepped back, letting the alien parents carry their hatchlings. Her chest rose and fell steadily, and she looked around at the survivors, humans and aliens alike. In that moment, everyone understood something extraordinary. True strength was not measured by weapons or size, but by the courage to protect life and the willingness to act with care, even in the darkest moments. The colony was battered, the streets were broken, but a new beginning had been born. And the human who had risked everything for the sake of tiny fragile lives had proven that trust, compassion, and courage could change the galaxy, one small act at a time.